We're now past halfway for today's award ceremony. Partnership of the Year, D&I Leader, and a Responsible Business Honorary Award are still to come. So first of the three is our Partnership of the Year Award. Always one of the most entered categories and also usually one of the most hardest to judge. And this year was no different. The finalists for the 2020 Partnership of the Year Award are Aberdeen Standard Investments, Business for Nature, Coca-Cola, Goldman Sachs, NatWest Group, and Severn Trent. And we're now joined by Sally Uren, CEO of Forum for the Future, to talk to the trials and tribulations of judging this year's Partnership of the Year Award. Over to you, Sally.
Hi, I'm Sally Uren. I'm the CEO at Forum for the Future, and I'm here to announce the winners of the partnership category, which I judge with the wonderful Mike Barry and the equally wonderful Martin Wright. This was a really exciting category to judge, a really varied set of entries. We were looking for long-term commitment to collaboration. We were also looking for proven metrics of success. And I think that's our comment on this category, is that there were some amazing submissions, but quite a few of them were a little bit early in their gestation, so weren't quite yet ready with the results that we're perhaps looking out for. With that in mind, though, we actually couldn't choose a winner, and we have two. We also have a highly commended. So the highly commended entry in this category it's Aberdeen Standard Investments. And the reason we really like this entry is that it was a wonderful partnership with the Big Issue, and is delivering real change at a local level and much needed positive impact during this COVID crisis. And we just loved the kind of grassroots nature of this. And for that reason, it's highly commended. Moving on to the two winners, they are... Up first is Goldman Sachs, and this is quite an early stage innovation, but the reason why we chose it as a winner is through their partnership with the Conservation Fund and the development of the first green bond, which has got conservation at its very heart. We felt that this was a brilliant example of a financial instrument that could drive both economic prosperity, but critically really drive conservation. And we felt that if every bank adopted this kind of approach, then we'll suddenly get flows of capital really being targeted at sustainable development outcomes. So Goldman Sachs is the first winner. And we just love the innovation of that financial instrument. And the second winner is the Coca-Cola Company. Very different entry. It's a project that's been running for 7 years, really taking a landscape-based approach to driving change along the River Danube. And we chose this because actually driving change at a landscape level, it does take time. And we applaud Coca-Cola's long-term commitment to both time and investment. And really, when we're talking about landscape level change, this is what it takes. And for that reason, we would like to recommend that as the joint winner of the partnership category. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'm now pleased to say I'm joined by Sally, one of the judges for this year's category, and a representative from the two winners. So Kevin Smith, VP Sustainable Finance Group at Goldman Sachs, and Sophia Khalifi, Sustainability Manager Europe Coca-Cola Company from Coca-Cola Hellas. Congratulations to you both. Great work by you both. And yes, I'm going to now hand over the reins to Sally just to ask a few questions about your projects and hopefully shed a bit more light on them, and I suppose hopefully inspire others to take something from this. So we've got 10 minutes for this discussion. So I'd now like to hand over the reins to Sally. It's all yours.
Thank you very much, Liam, and great to meet you, Sophia. Great to meet you, Kevin. Two really brilliant entries. Myself and my fellow judges, Mike Barry and Martin Wright, thought they were really excellent, and they're really diverse as well. That was why we couldn't decide between one of them, and that's why we have two winners in this category. So I just have a couple of questions I'd like to pose to each of you, if I may, just to get a bit more behind the project entry. And I'm going to go to you, Sophia, first, if I may. Tell us a bit more about the project and tell us what are the big successes that you're really proud of.
Actually, let me start how the project started. In 2010, we introduced our water strategy based on two targets: drive water efficiency and water stewardship, and a clear ambition to replenish 100% of the water we use. So for every drop we take, we give one back. And that really was the motivation for us to start collaborating with great partners like WWF in order to bring back water to nature and to make sure we help strike the right balance for nature and for the people in surrounding communities. So the Living Danube Partnership started in 2014 with three partners: WWF, ICPDR, and Coca-Cola, with the support of the Coca-Cola Foundation, in order to promote the river and wetland restoration across the Danube River.
And what have been the achievements that you're most proud of in that partnership?
First of all, it's a 7-year long-term and cross-sectoral partnership that has brought together the three partners, like I said. The partnership of the wetland conservation and restoration has already helped raise nearly 20 million euro, part of it from the support of the Coca-Cola Foundation, but also through co-financing by EU-funded projects. So we know that water doesn't stop at the borders, so thinking across borders and through silos, the Living Danube Partnership could bridge these different sectors and borders across the international river basin. So the program has focused on achieving overarching objectives and targets, and despite some challenges that we faced over the period of the years, we are in good track to deliver 12.85 million cubic meter of water replenished by 2021 and nearly 7,000 hectares of wetlands restored.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what really struck us as the judges, is that it's really hard to take a landscape-based approach to ecosystem restoration. And then here you are 7 years in and you've restored significant areas of wetlands, which is what we felt was really important. What's next for the project? Where are you going to go next with this project?
Well, next, we would like to see the Living Danube Partnership and the setup if it could engage other partners and co-financers. So the work continues and inspires into other programs to invest long-term in similar setup and solutions. So it will be ideal to continue creating the momentum and expertise needed for the practical realization of EU and government commitments to wetland and floodplain restoration in the Danube Basin. So more is expected by the time the current partnership ends in 2021, and we are looking forward to see how we can make it even bigger.
Great. So thank you for that. Really, as I say, brilliant example of landscape restoration and the need for that multi-sectorial collaboration and the need for an anchor partner, in this case, Coca-Cola. So the other winner of this category is a very different proposition, Kevin. And just tell us a bit about the entry and what success you've seen so far, because it is very different, but critically important in the same fashion.
Yeah, thank you, Sally, and thank you for the Reuters team. I'm really delighted to be here. You know, our project is actually kind of more of a collaboration in many ways. So Goldman Sachs, as a financial institution, worked with our client, which was the Conservation Fund, to help kind of raise capital to further their mission. So the Conservation Fund is one of the US's top environmental conservation organizations, and they're really focused on both preserving and protecting the nation's most important working forest. The organization is quite actually unique in a way that it's both dual chartered to pursue environmental preservation, but also economic development. So their focus on working forest is kind of unique in that regard. And so the Conservation Fund came to us. They had a long history of operating in the space, 30 plus years, but they were really looking to scale their efforts and wanted to pursue another way of funding at really a unique juncture. In the US, over the next kind of 5 to 15 years, we're going to see millions of acres that are becoming available for sale, largely from private owners that are going to be monetizing their forestry lands. And it presents a really unique opportunity for organizations like the Conservation Fund to help acquire those lands and then ultimately preserve them in perpetuity. So they came to Goldman Sachs to think about what ways they could raise capital to help further their efforts beyond the traditional philanthropy that they funded their organization. They had about $150 million of capital needs in the immediate term. So we worked with them to structure a very unique and innovative capital market transaction to further that opportunity.
And it was a bond, was it not?
Yeah, so we helped structure an inaugural green bond for them, which is quite unique in the nonprofit space, particularly for those on conservation organizations. So they raised $150 million, which we think will help get them, in the first part of their journey to preserving their goal of 5 million acres over the next 15 years. So it was a tradable security that was placed to institutional investors. Even though the organization itself is nonprofit, it was a regular way bond transaction that we successfully executed last year.
And the reason why we really liked it is that we thought it was a brilliant example of how to harness capital markets, flows of investment towards sustainable development outcomes. And our hope is that other banks, other financial institutions are inspired by what you've done here, as would be other nonprofits. And that we see more of this innovative financial mechanism emerging as a way of really ensuring that we can use the capital markets to, in this case, really build biodiversity. So what is your big hope for what next with this particular project?
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, I hope to kind of echo your comments, Sally, to hopefully this serves as kind of a model for how others can think about other forms of capital to help fund their projects. In some ways, this particular partnership kind of demonstrated the virtuous cycle that you can see where a high impact organization like the Conservation Fund, which had a long history of using philanthropic capital, saw a unique opportunity to raise and lever that capital in the debt markets, which then allows them to deploy more capital. And as they get more philanthropic donations and otherwise, it allows their balance sheet to then kind of recycle that and do that over and over again. And so we think that that is kind of a unique opportunity that hopefully will become more normal, and others will pursue that, both in the nonprofit space, but also in the corporate space. Nature-based solutions, and particularly forestry and other areas, I think is come and been kind of an area of prominence that both investors and broader stakeholders have found very interesting recently, and we think that trend will continue, and it's great to be part of that opportunity. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, and that's why we love these two entries, because in a way, with the Danu project, you've got an example of a more traditional approach to collaboration, driving ecosystem restoration. Here with Goldman Sachs, you've got an innovative financial mechanism that's really harnessing the power of capital markets to preserve and enhance our ecosystem. So the outcome very similar in both cases, but the means to deliver very different. And we need both, because we need to accelerate the way in which we're restoring and preserving biodiversity. So well done. Thank you both very much. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation. And I really hope that other organisations are inspired to replicate what you've both done. Back to you, Liam.
Thank you, Sally. And thank you, Kevin and Sophia. Congratulations, guys. Okay, and yes, I was lucky to listen in on the judges, and it was a well discussed category. Let me just say that they're very impressed, and it was very interesting to hear the judges go through everything. So thank you again, and Sally, thank you for sparing the time and joining us again today, and all
you're welcome.
In the process.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Okay, so yes, we're now moving on, and we are coming up to the penultimate category for today's broadcast.